Another way of adding clients into Pixie is to import them in bulk from a CSV file. This is great, especially if you already have all of your client information in another app, like a practice management app, or perhaps something like Xero or QuickBooks. Providing that you can export this, then all it should take is a little bit of formatting just to get the files ready for bringing into Pixie. Now we have some in-depth guides available talking you through how to import your clients, which we'll link below this video. But I just wanted to take a few seconds to highlight some of the key points to be aware of. The first is that you have to import your clients in two parts. The first part is a client list. Now this is a list of all of your clients, including companies, individuals, sole traders, and any other client information that you wish to import. On this sheet, you'll list out all of these clients, as well as their information that you want to map across to the client fields in Pixie. The second part of the import is contacts, and this is a list of all of the contacts that belong to these client records. For example, you might have a company that has 2 or 3 contacts, whereas an individual client record might only have 1. So on this sheet, we need to list out all of the contacts as well as the contact fields that you wish to import for them. Now, before the import process starts, you'll need to make sure that you have all of the correct client and contact fields set up in your workspace, because once you get into the import process, you'll have to exit and start again if any of the fields are missing. Don't worry if you don't have all of this information ready right away. You can always re-import your clients to add additional data and update records at a later date. In order to do this, you just simply need to export your client list first, add some additional information to the spreadsheet, and re-import it with the additional data you wish to update. So let's jump into Pixie and I'll walk you through the entire import process from start to finish. So let's walk through an example of the client and contact import process. But before we do, I just want to quickly show you my client and contact spreadsheets and a couple of things on here that I think are really important to note. So this is my client spreadsheet, and as you can see, I've got all of the names of the clients on here. I've also got their email addresses, the client types, client manager, and their email addresses. Now in Pixie, the client manager's email address would be the email address of that particular user. We also have some additional information here on this spreadsheet. When it comes to my contact spreadsheet, I've got the exact same client names down here on the left-hand side. So these client names in this column match up exactly with the client names that are in this column here. And this is really important because if these names don't match up, then the contacts won't be added to the correct client records. You'll also notice that for my contacts, there's some elements of duplication, where if the individual name is the client name, then the contact name is also the same. So there is an element of duplication that's involved here, but it's pretty easy to format and copy paste on the spreadsheet. So once you've got the spreadsheets ready, then we need to click on these 3 dots in the top right corner and import data from a CSV file. The first thing to note is that we do have a number of resources available here. The first is a guide on how to prepare your files. I definitely recommend giving this a good read through, as it explains a number of key things that you need to bear in mind as you go through the import process. We're going to start with importing client records. So click on clients, and then it's going to ask you to find your spreadsheet on the PC. Once done, it's going to ask you if your row has column headers. In this case, yes, there is a header row on my spreadsheet, so I select yes. The next thing that Pixie will do is it will try to map the columns on the spreadsheet in this side to the fields in Pixie on this side. Here, you'll notice that a number of them have already been mapped automatically, where Pixie's trying to guess, but some of them won't have been mapped automatically, and you'll need to do this manually. So let's go through this process. The first thing that we'll map is the client name on the spreadsheet to the name in Pixie. Once done, we confirm that mapping. The next one that we map across is email address on the spreadsheet to email field in Pixie. We then have the client type, where you can see that it's also starting to map across some of the individual values on the spreadsheet to the values that are in Pixie. And we can just keep working through this process here, confirming the mapping and ensuring that all of the fields have been mapped across correctly. As you can see, a number of the fields here have been done for us, making it nice and simple. If there are any fields that you don't want to bring in for whatever reason, then all you need to do is click on Ignore this column, and that won't bring that field through. You'll also notice a warning here, and what this is telling me is that 14% of the rows are failing a validation. But don't worry, because we're able to repair any errors in your spreadsheet on the next step. We're going to ignore this one, and then we're going to ignore this one, and then we're going to carry on going through ignoring and confirming the fields that we want to bring in. Once done, we click on Review here at the bottom right, and this will give us an overview of all of the data that you're bringing into Pixie. But what you'll also notice is that by toggling these switches on here, this will highlight any issues. And if I scroll across over here, you'll notice that it's telling me that this here is a required field that I don't currently have any information for. By double clicking in this box, I can input the information that I need, and that will now be brought into Pixie. I can then toggle this switch back off, and the information has been updated here once done. Then click on Continue and continue with the submission. This will now take a few seconds or minutes depending on how large your import list is. Mine's relatively small, so it should only take a few seconds to get done. Once completed, if we just quickly refresh the client page, you'll notice that we now have all of these additional clients set up in Pixie. The second part of the import process is to now import our contacts on top of our client records. So again, I go through the same process. I click on these three dots, import data from a CSV, only this time I'm going to import the contact spreadsheet. I'm going to find the spreadsheet on my PC and go through exactly the same process as before. First thing we'll do is confirm that there are header rows, and then you'll notice that a number of these fields have already been mapped across for me. So there's not actually that much that I need to do here. If there are any fields that are missing, again, all you need to do is click into this drop-down box, search for the field, and you can map that across. Once we've mapped all of those, we can click Review, and again, it will highlight if there are any issues with this particular import. If I hover over here, it's telling me that this is a required field. So what I can do is click into here, update the field, and continue. Once done, we can click Submit, and this will now add all of the contacts to the client records. So to prove that this has worked, if I open up one of these client records here, you'll notice that we now also have the contacts appearing here, which is the contact that I just imported. So hopefully that import process makes sense. But if you have any questions or need any assistance, then please feel free to reach out to your customer success manager, and they'll be more than happy to assist and guide you through the process.